Welcome to the Young Learners at Home course. We are actually gonna do this course in 3 sessions. And today we're gonna focus on the prepared environment, actually more on the triangle between the relationship between the child, the environment, and the educator. So to start the agenda, I'm just gonna introduce myself for those who don't know me and say a few words about that. And then we're going to focus on that relationship I talk about, the child. What does it mean to follow your child according to the Montessori philosophy? The prepared environment, the educator, and then we're going to leave the last part for questions and to discuss personal circumstances and see how and if I can support you with that. That part is not going to be recorded, so you can actually then show your faces and we can talk freely. If you are watching the recording, I'm happy for you to send me an email, and I'm happy to help you with your questions or situations, and we can as well discuss in the next session too. So, magical parenting. So for those who don't know me, I'm Cristina Tumino. I'm a holistic educator and qualified in Montessori pedagogy. I'm very passionate about children, about education in all senses, not just the education as parenting education, but as well education as we intend normally in schools, instructions. And the most important thing I'm very passionate about is personal growth, personal development, whether we're children or parents or adults, and how these actually help us to understand what makes us unique and how to grow into strong and fulfilled individuals. And that's why I created as well the magical bodies method, where I work with individuals in what I call the 4 bodies. So the physical, like the tangible things that we can touch, bones and and skin. So anything that supports our body in terms of food and sleep and exercising and all these aspects. The emotional body, anything related to emotions and relationships, the mental body in terms of the mind and how to develop the mind, and spiritual body, not in a religious way, but in a very understanding more our essence, what makes us unique, what our positives and negatives aspects, our weaknesses, our strengths, and how to develop the positive sides and keep under control the negative sides. And these 4 bodies, they are interrelated and interconnected, and this is very important to consider. This is what when we talk about holistic approach, it means considering all these areas in an individual. Because when, for instance, let's pretend a child or a person breaks their foot, that means one part of this wholeness gets damaged, the physical body. And in reality, this has an impact on everything of the person, in every part of the person. So, for instance, emotionally, the person will feel maybe, frustrated, depressed, unhappy, or angry. And that will as well affect the mental body, because maybe we will not be able to focus and concentrate because of the pain or because of how we're feeling. And will affect the spiritual body. And that means that we start to bring out the negatives in us. And of course, it will not help us in our growth, in our development. So the key is, and this is when we're studying as well. So if a person, a child, somebody is studying and is in love, of course, that has an impact on all the other bodies and so on. So we need to consider this when we're talking with and supporting individuals. And as well is important when we support an individual, we support all the bodies at the same time in the same way, not just one aspect, for instance, the educational side. Another very important thing is that we are all unique, also unique in the 4 bodies, in the way we look, in the way we feel, in the way we think, in the way we are, our essence. So even twins never will be, can be the same. They are unique, like all of us. And so every child and every individual and every sibling is unique. Also, children absorb from the environment everything. So that's another important thing to consider. And as well, that every single individual has an inner knowledge, some kind of hidden skill, something within that we need to help to develop in some way. And the good news is that no child is born bad, believe it or not. I know I have sometimes conversations with parents about this. Children want to be good, they want to be loved, and they want to be accepted. And the less good news, but still good because we are unique anyway, is that no one size or solution or approach fits all. So that's why we have to always work on an individual basis, although now we're going to talk generically in some aspects, but we still then need to go and dig into each circumstances, the cases and personalities and so on. So let's get started by, I would like you to think for 1 second about the word discipline. Could you write down what do you think it means? You can, if you can have piece of paper, as I suggested, please, otherwise go and grab it quickly and write down what do you think is discipline. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes so you can write whatever it comes to your mind, whatever you think it is. It's not right or wrong, it's your opinion. So if you don't mind to write it down. So you have a couple of minutes. Maybe another thing that can help as well with thinking of the word discipline could be about thinking the opposite of its meaning. Sometimes looking at the opposite can help us understand better the positive meaning. I'm gonna leave another few seconds. If you can think, if you have finished, you can write as well. Is discipline important? Is it not? If it is, why? If it is not, why? So here I'm going to, of course, this is more like a self-reflection part, because sometimes it's important to think about stuff, challenge our beliefs, our understanding. And of course, this will be my opinion and my understanding according to my experience as well and my learning process. So discipline. There seems to be almost a kind of aversion, dislike of this word in the current times. I often ask people, and often is this seen in a negative way. In fact, I went to check for curiosity the dictionary's definition and of discipline, and it gives a negative connotation. It says, I'm going to read a quote, the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior using punishment to correct disobedience. So you see, punishment, disobedience. I also went to check the etymological meaning of the word. So it means the origin, where it comes from, when it was created. And very interestingly, it has completely different understanding back in the day when it was created, the word. And I'm going to quote again the meaning. It comes from Latin, and it means instruction giving, teaching, learning, knowledge. And it comes from discipulus, pupil, student, follower. And this is what I intend to use, this kind of concept, the one of teaching, training these disciples, these students, and with the aim to create some order, structure, to learn to be in control of things. In fact, I'm going to explain a bit more how, according to Montessori, discipline is actually equals freedom. If you think of, actually, I'm going to read the quote first. Freedom and discipline are the two sides of the same coin, according to Maria Montessori. A child who doesn't know how to obey an interior guide, and that means his own will, is not free. It's like with discipline, we become loyal to ourselves because we gain that necessary freedom to achieve what we, our will, our wishes, our desires, decide to set our mind to achieve. So if, for instance, I'll give you an example. If I want to write a book and I actually just don't think, oh, I have this skill, this talent, and I'm going to write my book. I actually need to be self-disciplined. I need to create a plan, decide when I'm going to write. I'm going to write 4 days a week for an hour every day, and I need to be consistent. I need to create a structure, learn how to control myself, how to make sure I can achieve that goal and become successful. In fact, if you think the freedom on the other side of the coin is freedom from procrastination, freedom to achieve what I actually decided to achieve. And this, I think, is very important, is crucial, because when we learn how discipline works and we actually apply discipline to our lives and therefore to the lives of our children, we're giving an important tool. We're giving the tool to create that order, the self-control, that self-discipline that brings with it as well persistency in the daily, in the steps that you have to do every single day, the little steps that help you to achieve goals in life. So educating children to obey these rules and to follow these routines is actually very important foundations for them. And of course, discipline is not an easy thing. Of course, children will challenge these rules. As we do, if we have to, follow a diet because that's very important for our health, or because we are diabetic, or we have diabetes, we have to follow the diet. Of course, we will often create excuses and challenge in some way and try not to do it, because we always have this side of us that doesn't want to do what is actually right. We prefer to do what we want rather than what we need. It's very important. So the children will do it, but that's the interesting thing, the paradox of this is the children will challenge rules, but they desperately need them. They crave, they need these rules and routines and structure because it makes them feel safe. It's something they need. And they know as well what to expect, what is expected from them. And they can learn how to control their behavior as a consequence. So, of course, discipline requires consistency. It requires resilience, especially at the beginning when we're setting up new rules and new structures. But if we keep in mind that the final goal of why we're teaching this, we're training a muscle. Like when you go to the gym, we're actually training that muscle of being disciplined, of consistency, of rules, and we're teaching this to our children, when we have that in our back, then the back of our mind, that can help us to keep going and doing it. And trust me, it is very worth it. It's for us, even for us, for our children. So very important, and discipline in that sense. I hope that might give you a different perspective of the word, and why what we're going to talk about now becomes important, this part. Now I'm going to quote, I'm going to use a quote from Plato that will help us to understand a bit more about the Montessori philosophy. He said, do not train, by the way, Plato is an ancient Greek philosopher, and he actually was a student of Socrates. So Socrates was the teacher, and Plato, and he just talked about stuff, and Plato put in writing all Socrates' teachings as his student. So the quote was, do not train a child to learn by force or harshness, but direct them to it by what amuses their mind, so that you may be better able to discover with accuracy the peculiar bent of the genius of each. So what he's saying here is that every child, every individual has that kind of genius. Yeah, so we have this kind of wisdom inside, this inner knowledge that we need to take out, and that actually comes from the word educating, educate. It comes from Latin, from the Latin word educare, educatum, and that means to bring out, to lead out this knowledge that we have within. These talents, they are hidden, this genius that is hidden, and we can tap into this through their interests. That's why I say what amuses their minds, and from here we can learn everything about them. We can, from when you learn how to follow and understand a child's interest, then you can support them in any aspect, in any curriculum, in anything, because everything is connected anyway. I'll give you an example. I had a boy I was working with, I'm going to call him A, in a nursery I was managing, and he was a lot into numbers and animals and other things, but he really, really didn't want to look at letters. And because in Montessori setting, you never force a child to do anything, as it says as well in Plato's quote. So I knew he was very interested in building stuff, and I was introducing woodwork in that period. So I took him with me, and I said, oh, I need some help bringing these tools to the other side. So I had like a drill, real stuff, safety goggles, pieces of wood and stuff. And he was very like up to it. So we went and moved. He said, what are you going to do? And I explained. And he said, wow, I would love to do it. And I said, yeah, but to do it, I would love to teach you. But there are two things. One, you have to do very good listening. Do you think you can do very good listening and follow the rules? And he was like, yes, of course. And I said, and the other thing is that you need to be able to write your names and write the letters, because when we build, we need to be able to put the things together. And you can learn if you don't know how to write, but that's important. And he was like, yeah, of course. So, and he actually, straight away, how do I write my name? And he started to get interested in letters and get more into the woodwork as well. So what I'm saying is, another quote from Plato is that nobody really can teach anyone anything. We can teach them only to think. And that's because everybody learns and is engaged, and proper learning happens when we are ready, of course, because we cannot tell a 1-year-old to learn about physics. So when we are ready physically, mentally, etc., and when we're interested. And interested can be the one thing can help us to go wherever we need to, or is actually interesting. So that's very important to when we work with children, to get them engaged, because when they're engaged, they really learn. So at this point, the environment becomes very important. And here is this triangle thing that Montessori talks about, where we have the child in one corner of the triangle. So one of the elements is the child, of course, that is unique with his inner knowledge that we need to draw out, but he has as well some needs and some interests. Then we have the educator, the parent, the teacher, who the most important thing, according to Montessori, but as well other theorists, is that the teacher needs to go through, the educator needs to go through what he calls like a spiritual work in terms of working on ourselves and being aware of our influence and our way of thinking and our behaviors and all this stuff, because then we become role models. And more very, very important is as well to be able to self-reflect on what we do and amend things after we think about stuff. And of course, the environment, because as I said at the beginning, children absorb from the environment. So the environment, when it's interesting, the child can be more engaged. So we can actually prepare an environment that becomes very engaging for a child according to their needs and interests and pace and personality, etc. So we're going to go talk about all of these three. So about the child in particular, what Montessori says is how to follow our children. Follow our children doesn't mean they can do anything they want. That's very important. It's not like, oh, my child is want to go outside and he doesn't want to wear, I don't know, a coat and it's freezing and he doesn't want to eat now. He just want to have a candy. So I'm just going to follow his request. No, that's not what follow your child means. I'm going to explain what does it mean follow. And it's more about follow their needs, understanding what a child really needs, and interests that help them to develop and draw out that inner genius. Yeah. So one of the most important things is a need for a child is to support independence. In fact, we can see when children are like, even from the age of like 2, they often start to be like, I do it, I do this. They want to do it themselves. They want to be independent. They want to help you doing whatever you're doing, cleaning, tidying. You see them like they want to do things because they have this inner kind of force that and wisdom that guides them to be independent, so they know how to survive in the world when they become adults. So they know what to do. They need to learn this. So they need to learn to do it themselves. And in fact, Montessori says we have to help the child to act, will, and think for himself. The earlier children learn how to do things on their own, the earlier they can actually grow and become master skills. And this is quite tricky because there is often this idea that as parents, we are there to support them and be at their service. And in some way we are. We are there, I don't know, feeding them and putting their shoes on and I don't know, zipping their coats. But the reality, the thing is, the more we do this for them and serve them, especially when there is a time where they can actually learn how to do it themselves, and it's earlier than when you think often, then we are making them our slaves. I know it sounds like a strong word, but it's actually, they become dependent on us and they think that it's normal. And that is not normal. If you start to teach, I've seen videos and I've been working as well with children, that if you start to support them when they are very young, you will see already at the age of 2. I've seen myself, I worked with children that are 9 months old and they are very good at eating everything on their own with their spoon and being very clean. And it's not because they already know how to do it. It's because they're being supported in order to do it on their own. Of course, at the beginning, it's all a mess, but then they know how to do it. And very early in their life, they already know how to do it properly. And the same if you teach them how to zip their coat when they are 3, not even 3, or lace their shoes, they actually can learn how to do it. And there are strategies and by steps, etc. But is very feasible, and children learn quite quickly and they become independent. And that's when we're doing our job as parents, because they know how to do things for themselves. Other kind of needs the children have that we need to support in that way to follow them is order. And order, if we have things, the environment where children are is always tidy and ordered and beautiful as well. Beauty is an important aspect as well. Flowers or paintings, and simple, not too crowded, just few things, few and tidy. And we teach them how to be tidy and keep everything in order. We're actually helping them to develop as well their mind, because order, physical order, helps physical and mental order. And that helps to link better things and build intelligence. In fact, often, I don't know if you heard psychologists and other people say, when you wake up in the morning, wake up, tidy up your room, leave everything tidy, and that will help you to start your day properly, because you are creating order already in the environment and therefore in your mind. And that's important for children to learn since they're very little. They can start since they are 2 years old. You just do things with them, and what your actions, they learn from our actions, and do it with them and tell them, oh, do you want me to help you at the beginning, until they actually can do it on their own. And take advantage of that period when they want to be all independent. Another one is very important for them. They really need, as I said, rules. They need structure. They need boundaries, because that will help them to feel safe. If you look at these as if you are, for instance, let's pretend you get for the first time in a forest. You've never been there. You have no idea how it works, what animals can be there. How do you look for food? How do you sleep? Where do you sleep? You have no idea. When you start to have some kind of boundaries or structure, and you start to know what is expected from you and where you can go, what you cannot go, and the more is defined and clear those boundaries, the safer you will start to feel, because you think, oh, so I need to sleep on top of the tree. I don't know, I'm just making it up. Or I cannot go that way because that can become dangerous. When I start to know, I start to feel safer. And as well, I know what is expected of me and from me. So very important rules for children. And as well, it helps with discipline, as we said before. These are a series of freedoms that Montessori talk about. They support that sensitive periods. I actually made a worksheet where there is a little explanation for each of these needs that you can go and look into, and you will be able to download it in the website where there will be the recording as well. But these freedoms are freedom of movement. It means the children, if you observe them, they're always moving. Even when they're sitting, they're not really sitting. They're doing something. When they're concentrating, they're singing, or they're jumping or going up and down. And that's very important. We have to allow that movement. We need to allow them as well to, I don't know, go. Sometimes it happened many times that I taught things on the floor, on a mat, or on a tree. I actually did in a house tree, or wherever, outside at the park, whatever. And maybe while they're moving, or maybe what leave them as well. For instance, there are activities where they have to move from one side to another to collect stuff. And you might think, oh no, I'm going to put it close so they don't have to move too much. But they actually need it. It's good for them. It's good for them fine and gross motor skills. Fine from the hand that grows from the whole body. Freedom of choice, of course, choice within limits. Especially here, she talks about choice in an environment that is prepared for them. So where there are different kinds of activities I'm going to explain later, and they need to be able to choose what they want to work on, if they prefer to work with letters or with numbers, or if they feel more they want to do science experiments that day or that moment, if they want to work on their own, or they prefer to work with another friend. So that's very important. And it supports confidence as well. Freedom of repetition, because it is through repeating things and that we actually can master a skill. It is through repetition that we can strengthen the synapses in our brain. So we have these neurons, and there's like pathways that are built between these neurons. And the more we repeat things, especially physical stuff, or we use our hands, or we do things, like imagine you're going to learn how to ride a bike. The more you try and try and try, you strengthen those synapses. And when they become strong, you are never going to forget again. So this happens, for instance, as I said, with a bike. You might learn properly and then not have used a bike for years. And when you take it again, you actually know how to ride it because that synapses became very strong. And that because the child was repeating, and repeating can be anything. Sometimes we think they become obsessed with building something with Lego or anything, and repeating and repeating and repeating. And it's just because they're actually learning and following that intuition of understanding and learning how to master a specific skill. So that's very good. They as well need freedom of time. So we're going to talk later about work cycle and stuff, but time in the sense of if they prefer to work for an hour on a specific activity or just 2 minutes, it's okay. We shouldn't be forcing them because that means they're not funding what they need. So we just need to be more clever and find other strategies to understand how we can support them in other ways or by following another interest. Freedom from interruptions. This is very hard. So that means why so important? Because concentration, especially at this age, becomes very, 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 very important. Through concentration, children start to learn how to build intelligence. In order to build intelligence, you need to be able to concentrate. And concentration is very hard when they are little. So learning to concentrate and stay concentrated for a long time is very important. And when they're working on something and they get very focused, and then we interrupt their concentration by saying, let's pretend they're coloring something, and I come and I say, oh, I like your drawing, or what are you coloring? Or, oh, I can see you're using green, or anything. The moment we interrupt with a comment, we're interrupting that precious moment of concentration. So we need to be very careful when we see a young child concentrated to leave that moment because they're building a very important skill. And in this sense, things like screens, in reality, although there is lots of people and things that say that you can learn through screens, numeracy and stuff, or you can their educational screens, in reality, don't really help much to build those synapses I was talking about and concentration. They can actually be very detrimental instead. They have a very negative impact. The more children do things where they use their hands or their body, or they actually work on things, not a screen, the more they can develop those beautiful physical, emotional, social, language. All these skills actually are developed in that way. And the other one is from making mistakes. And that's another very tricky one for us because we tend to avoid them to make mistakes, while mistakes in reality are key, are important learning ways for us opportunities to learn stuff. Because when through a mistake we can learn, oh, okay, that's not the way. So what is the way? And it actually supports resilience and problem-solving skills. So try not to solve their problems and let them make mistakes, and actually encourage mistakes, especially when they are young, because that will stay with them forever. So, and if you see, I remember there was this little boy, I think I've said this example in the past, but he was building something, and he was doing this thing with sponges, and actually put the sponges, for some reason he wanted to make them wet and put them together, and then he wanted to put them together with sellotape, but it actually didn't work. And I was observing him, and he was frustrated because it didn't work. So I just said like, oh, what's going on? And he said, this is not working. I said, I can see, what solution can we find? But I didn't give a solution. And he tried and tried. And at the end, he actually did something else and went back. And at the end, he found his way using a string and putting it together. And he was so excited. He tried so many things. He was so excited that he managed to do it himself. And there's so much learning in there. And, building resilience and that's very, and confidence. So very, very good opportunity. So we need to try to do that. And then they need to take on responsibility. It's a need. It's a need. So we had to give them little tasks and little things to do at home. So they have their own responsibilities. That's very important. Another important thing, and that's more part of the educator side, is that we need to learn, in order to follow our child, to observe. So rather than interfere, just step back, observe and see what's going on, and then decide if maybe they actually need some help with something, rather than step in and say, oh, this is wrong, or you're not getting it right. Step back and think, oh, so if he's struggling with this, maybe I can think of an activity that can help to overcome that problem without being like, because if they haven't got that yet, it means they're not maybe ready. So there's no point. It's frustrating. Even as an adult, if I keep telling you that's wrong, and you don't know how to do it, it will just frustrate you. So I can support you for you to learn how to do it in a more maybe even fun way. Listening, another important thing. So follow our child means as well to be able to listen and ask what is called open-ended questions. I put some examples as well in the worksheet. They can be open-ended. So that means the children are not just going to say yes or no. So you can say, what if we add some water here? What do you think is going to happen? Or how do you think this is going? Or I don't know, anything that can make them think openly. And you will see some of those questions and try to use them when you're talking to them. And then after guiding rather than telling them what to do. Although this is important, as parents, we are the one in charge. So we do need to give structure and say no when there's no. But there are so many other occasions where we don't have to say no. We just have to be there and guide them and, give a little kind of hint on something, or let them do things by themselves. The more they learn how to do things for their own and independently, the more they can grow as strong individuals. And then finally, very important, we need to accept our children's uniqueness and understand what is their uniqueness, what makes them unique. Interesting as well to see what makes us unique. That's a very good exercise to reflect on this. So I did this reflective worksheet that you will see there are some questions, the ones that we just discussed with some examples, so you can fill in as an exercise, and the kind of guidelines of the things that we discussed. So that's an exercise to do at home to understand more your child and how to support their needs, and if we are doing it. And then we're going to talk about the prepared environment. The prepared environment is children learn everywhere all the time. There are opportunities for learning all the time everywhere. So if you think even of the house as a big kind of classroom, every room is a place where children can learn something. The bathroom, the kitchen, the bedroom, the garden, every single area of the house is a place, like a classroom. Yeah. So, and outdoors as well is a classroom, a park, woods, street, everything is actually a classroom. Lots of opportunities for learning. But if we're talking about the house per se, that's why I put here children learn everywhere. We take those rooms as opportunities for teaching, but we could as well create a specific learning area. This is especially for the parents who are home educating. Create a small area that is just dedicated for learning, and And of course, we need to consider the children's needs. Generic needs, that is more or less for all children, as we discussed. Order, so we need to display things nicely, beautiful. They need to be tidy. We need to teach them how to keep it tidy and clean, with some kind of structure. Materials have to be displayed in a way they're very easy for children to reach. So they have to be child size as well, like if they have a table to work on and a chair, better if it's their size. So furniture, tools, materials, possibly all real tools and materials, not just plastic or toys, and as well something that they can reach. And this is because it encourages independence, and they can then choose freely what to work on, and they can do it on their own. So for instance, and that's why it changes as well, this area, this learning area, depending on the age, so the height, their interest as well. So what we're going to display on these shelves. For instance, to give you an example, these are shelves where you can display, as you can see, they're all tidy, nicely, and children keep it that way when they're taught. Here is a bit higher space. They have a bit bigger, but sometimes you just need a very like small shelf and maybe a little corner for like art and craft, where they can be free to take certain materials and resources, and you can put like an area for recycling, like boxes and stuff, so they can develop, work on some projects and develop creativity and problem solving skills, how to put things together. Maybe the first time you can actually sit with them and think, oh, what can we build with this box? And then start to initiate and show them the potential of a box, and a few times until they actually get it, and then they will be able to just, when they're bored, take a box, sit down and start to build something. This, for instance, is for a child that's a bit younger, so they are very simple like this. You can see there are photos, frames, sometimes you can put flowers. That's very important, and this will help their freedom, and of course with limits, and that means following rules, for instance, to put things back into the shelves and keep it tidy and clean. We're going to talk more about this in the next session we're going to do next week. And as well, as I said, it needs to be able to achieve, to take things and put natural things, possibly natural light, plants, and the activities better if they are hands-on, because we actually learn through touching and concrete things. We can develop as well abstract concepts, and we're going to talk about this in the next course as well. So materials that have to be interesting, attractive, sometimes self-correcting, so they can correct their own mistakes. So they become engaging for them when they can touch it. The important normally thing is that everything in reality is connected. So for instance, if this child is particularly interested in penguins and learning about penguins, we can think of activities that work around that topic. So you can still consider as main areas like numeracy, so you can put numbers and stuff related to penguins. You can put literacy, letters and things related to the sound P if they're starting to do that. Science, you can put some stuff on science, arts, you still have geography. So you can link everything and connect everything. And it's actually a better way for them to understand the world, rather than like in schools, every subject is separate from each other, but it's way better when everything works around one thing, when we can do it. And this, as I said, supports their needs of what we said, order, independence, freedoms, etc., etc. Another thing is what routines are very important, and what Montessori called the work cycle. So the work cycle is an uninterrupted period of 2-3 hours where children can concentrate to work in this learning environment, where they can choose activities, decide to work on certain things or others, where sometimes we have to present something so they know how to work on it. And then they can work independently. They might have a friend coming over so they can work together, etc., etc. So the work cycle, of course, as I said, is that period, and normally that's what children need, between 2 and 3 hours a day to actually learn. The rest should be about playing and doing other kind of things. I'm going to show you a little video, but this video is actually an example of a work cycle, like done in 4 minutes, in a Montessori nursery. And the child, I think, is 4 years old. And of course, this is to give you an idea what does it mean and how children can work independently. But in reality, this is very feasible at home if we consider different aspects in the classrooms and the learning area as well. And another thing, if you are a home educator, you don't have to do everything on your own. You don't have to teach on yourself, yourself, but you can work with other families and take turns on things. Maybe you are good at cooking, and you might have a couple of children over and support them in the cooking. So you will be in the classroom, in the kitchen classroom. Maybe another parent will be more interested in working with numbers and geometry. And so then they can be working in their house in that moment. And that will help you as well to have some free time and children to work as well and socialize with others. But it's good to have a kind of learning area in general in the house. So let's watch this video. The 3-hour work cycle. So he's saying no to everyone. Independently, he takes off his stuff and puts things in the right place, and that's something can be sorted at home. And he's starting to feel ready to the activity he wants to work. Because it's a big place. But he has a choice of to work on his own. But you see that it's manual, and it's refining some of his skills. Now he wants to choose another activity. He has available colors and pencils and this to get inspired to. And this is the case of the teacher in that case. One to just double check and see if everything was okay. So we're just observing the child. Here is page. But you can see everything is tidy. And this is difficult. It's also in school. It can be as well at home. Trust me. I can show you, I can teach you. Here we decided to work with other children. As you notice, every time he finishes, he puts this activity away. And I know these activities might seem silly sometimes, like really, in reality, it helps them a lot to develop lots of skills from findable skills to, care, respect, patience. Now he's putting everything away, tidying up. And all these, of course, have been taught. Now, breakfast, children can learn as well how to have, they can have a little area in the kitchen where they can go take their own water and prepare their own food. They can use specific kind of knives to cut apples and everything. Here is learning actually algebra through a sensorial activity that's called the trinomial cube. And it's on the floor. You see here he decided to work on the floor, so he just took a mat. And the mat helps to create that visual area of work. Here he's doing math with the beans, and he's doing the sequence of 5 and 2. As you can see, they're working on their own. Oh, in couple. Not with other interacts with other things. Put everything away. As you see, in 3 hours, he's working with different kinds of activities from literacy to numeracy and the teacher is just checking. Or there are moments where the teacher is actually working individually and introducing new things. Here is time for lunch. It's hard, by the way, to find a very proper Montessori setting that follows the Montessori principles, to be honest. For some places, only have the materials and resources that the teachers unfortunately don't really follow the rules. Montessori philosophy is very hard. So you can do this at home. You see the child is screaming, tidying up, putting things away. Now he gets finished. He's putting everything on his own, hat, gloves, running, everything. And now he's ready to go out and the 3 hours are up to him. So as you can see, oops, sorry, I want to ahead. As you can see, it is that is a work cycle. So it's just 3 hours. Now, of course, if you're home educating, you might start by creating a planner if you haven't done it yet. And I'm actually putting that planner as well available on the website for you to download, where you can put, for instance, from Monday to Fridays and all the timings, and this is a work in progress anyway, planner, and different days and weeks might change. But if you try to create one for a couple of weeks and then adjust it and leave things a bit loose in some way, and as well be realistic. Don't put things like military that are never gonna work. Try to be realistic. But important things to consider is outdoor time, the work cycle. You might start with 2 hours and then bring it to 3. You might decide to do 3 days a week. If you're actually working from home, it would be good to do, and you're doing it every day, Monday to Friday, it's good that you do like the 2 hours or the 3 hours from Monday to Friday and keep it always the same so it's consistent. And then the rest of the day, the afternoon is, to play and do other activities, swimming and going outdoors. Outdoors is very important. Play is very important as well, socializing and meeting friends, etc. So that is what is called the work cycle, and you can recreate that at home and create a kind of planner routine, because it will help them to feel safe, and it will help them as well with their behavior, to control their behavior and know what is expected of them. Consider as well lunch and tidy up, like tidy up before, after. Try to keep them involved in preparing lunch, for instance, maybe once a week, twice a week. They can think of what can be done, and they can actually help you. That's very good for bonding and developing lots of fine motor skills. And as well in the morning, for instance, making the bed, that's very important. If children, even when they are 2 and something, start to make their own bed and get dressed on their own. And for this, you can actually create what is called visual routine charts. I actually have here 2 examples to show you. I actually made this. This one was with a boy that's called Ted, and he was 3, 4 at the beginning. I think he was just turned 4 when we were working with this. And so he knew already how to write his name and read and stuff. So you can Google it as well. There can be so many ways. You can make it that way and laminate it. So the point is that at the end, when he's doing all the specific tasks, he can either like scribble something or do like a little tick on the if he's laminated, for instance, and then remove it, and the day after is ready again to do it. Or like in the other one next to it is in Italian. I was working with an Italian mom. They actually did it with Velcro, and every time the one activity was done, he needed to close it. Or you can put blue tags. I mean, there's so many, you can really Google it. But the important things, very important things, and please do go and double check these recording once you're ready to do if you want to use it. because routines can be very good, these visual routine charts, when you have difficulties or you want them to go to bed a certain time, or in the morning wake up and do certain things. If they do go to school and you want them to don't become all the time like a nightmare to get for them to get ready, these visual routine charts can really help. They can really help, especially if done in a certain way and with consistency. The important things, the important rules is one, choose which routine, just work on one at the beginning. Which routine to implement if you want to do, I don't know, the morning, bedtime, lunch, whatever is the routine. Have an idea first yourself of what you would like them to do. Maybe write it down so you remember, you have that in mind as a model to follow. Then print materials if you want them to use these flashcards. I'm actually gonna put some of the flashcards on the website when there will be the recording, but you can check online as well. You might draw. I actually made ones with this girl that we were drawing. She really loved drawing. She said, let's do it together. So she was drawing the actions. I was helping a bit and writing down what each action was, and then laminated, and then she put her ticks on top. She really loved it. So, or you can decide to print this. So you would need like a cardboard and then print these cards, print different ones so they can choose. And I don't know, if you want to laminate it, have the laminator. If you want to use, you don't have to use a laminator. You can even use sellotape, the thick one, if you want to do that. I mean, do or the Velcro or anything. So have the materials ready. So once you are ready, sit with your child or children and discuss together. What do you think are the tasks that we need to do in the morning or in the evening for things to go very well and fluent and with no, drama and everything? So discuss together with them, choose the images with them, or draw the images and write the things down. So they are involved in the decision making. They are part of the thing. And of course, keep in mind what you want them to do. And then once you find the right compromise where you are happy and they are happy because they put the things together, then glue it, put the right sequence, anything that you wish, and decide where you're gonna hang it or decorate it as well. I thought here as well they wanted to decorate it. It's fine. He wanted to decorate. And then decide where you're gonna hang it. And then every day, make sure that you do at the same time, show the clock when is the time, and go and they have to go and make it exciting, like, oh, are you ready? Oh, for instance, this one was for the morning. Toilet, we have to go to the toilet. Do we go? And then we have to go and tick it. And then make sure that he actually goes and tick the thing or close the little window thing. So they are consistent, and then the day after they start again. Just be consistent. It takes a few days and they actually get it until they just know the routine and they do it. So work together with your child and be consistent. Now, the last one I'm going to talk about is the educator. And the educator, of course, in this case is us, parents, or anyone who is actually with a child. Not necessarily just a teacher. We're all educating. And of course, we all have, especially as parents, we have our child's best interest at heart, and we want the best for them. And as educators, a way to support them is by providing, love, safety, food, a bed, shelter, etc. Time, although time doesn't mean the whole day. Time sometimes can be half an hour, but it's good an hour. Not an hour, let's go to the park and then I'm with the phone and they do something. Is actually being with them, present, doing things with them, listening to them, playing what they are playing, getting into the world so they can feel special, they can feel seen, and you can really bond and understand them. And as educators, we need to understand their needs, as I said at the beginning, the main needs, and as well understand their interests. So there's lots to consider, I know. But when we understand the real needs, as I said before, independence, order and stuff, we responsibility and stuff, we help them to, we're giving them the tools, we're training those muscles to be confident, to be strong, to be resilient, to be responsible, to be respectful. I like to see our children as little apprentices. Like, you know, when you go to a company and you're actually hiring someone and the person now is an apprentice, the apprentice is kind of shadowing you and learning what to do, and we give them stuff, and of course they make mistakes, but then we go back until they become independent, because we want them to be independent as soon as possible so they can do the work and I can actually do my stuff. So with children is the same. The more the children are with us and we're showing them and giving them responsibilities and tasks, even if they're only 2-3 years old, the more they can master skills. And I know sometimes it can slow us down, but maybe that's the point as well. Sometimes we just need to slow down, to see things, to appreciate things, to be patient and teach them patience. Because when we live in a life where everything is, oh, I don't have time, I have to work, I have to do this, it's not even good for ourselves. Because we are always as well in that kind of anxious moment. And that's not good, because we need to be able to breathe and be calm. So that's very important. And if we see children as apprentices, in reality actually help us with it gives us two important benefits. Through the power of observation and self-reflection, and as well, therefore, when we observe what we do and how we behave, we might understand why our children behave that way. Because normally when they behave in a certain ways, because in some way we don't do it on purpose, or we don't have bad intentions, but they copy what we do rather than what we say. So when we are aware of what we do and how we do it, and we reflect on this and we observe how they behave, because then we say actually how we behave, we can be better role models in some way. And in order to do this, by seeing our children as apprentices can actually be a good way, as I was saying. Also remember another thing, that as I said at the beginning, that children learn, like authentic learning is when they are ready and interested. But we need to consider their needs and how to follow those. That's very important. And when we do that and we support their need of independence and following their interests and concentrating and following the rules, and therefore being respectful and be independent and initiate their own learning, the more we do that, the more magic happens. Because this is what Maria Montessori says: the greatest signs of success for a teacher or any educator is to be able to say, the children are now working as if I did not exist. Because as you saw as well in the work cycle video, a child was so independent and knew what to do and what to learn and put his stuff. And of course, there are moments where teachers, the parent has to be there showing and teaching something. You have to, because that may be a few minutes of teaching in those 3 hours. You might be introducing something new and teaching a new thing, especially when they are so young. Then it will help them to repeat the activity on their own. And at some point, when they get to a certain age, when they get to maybe 5 years old, 4 or 5, they learn how to start to slowly learn how to be independent themselves in their own teaching. So they will be thinking, oh, today is a foggy day. How does fog works? I'm going to find out, and then do the research and then link to everything, and maybe prepare a little presentation and show it to other children or their siblings or the parents. So that's the key, to learn how to be independent and initiate their own learning. And if we start to not exist and be less present, so they can learn on their own, because nobody really learns because somebody's telling what to do, but we learn We're self-taught individuals. In fact, you can see this when a child is born and they start to walk. We don't really teach a child, oh, look, you have to put the foot forward and the other foot here, and then you need to learn how to be in balance. They just learn by observing, and they learn on their own. And the same language is way more abstract and complicated. And they learn, we don't tell them, oh, you have to put the tongue up, you have to put the noun and then the verb, or you have to pronounce it in this way. They just learn because we are self-taught individuals in reality. We learn when we're interested and when we're ready. So when we do this, we are less present because our children are becoming more independent in their learning. And the other big benefit is that we get free time for us. So the work cycle becomes important because if you're working as a parent, especially when the child is younger, you need to be more present, of course. But when the child starts to become and do more showing, more presenting, more activities at the beginning and teaching them the rules, so it can take a bit of time. Actually, I was working with this mom and the child was 2 years and a half. And I went to her house and we started to set up the environment. And I said, well, we have to decide a time. What is the best time for you to do this, blah, blah, blah. And we just did the work cycle for an hour with her, just to start with, and to get into the routine. And I said, it might take a few weeks. Actually, after 4 days, she sent me a video that she already knew after breakfast and putting things away, she already started to work. 4 days. So maybe not even weeks. But yeah, if you're working as a parent, put in the work cycle and they know what to do and they have the environment is engaging for them, you will have your time to do your work while they're actually learning in the meantime. And then you might just need to spend half an hour with them to see what they're doing, to show you, or to teach. And then another important thing is to support that, and it's good for you to have your more free time, is to actually support boredom. Boredom is so important for children. Rather than giving the tablet, create that art corner with recycling things. So then they can start to develop instead imagination, creativity. Being bored is good because in that moment of discomfort, our minds start to wander and start to find ways to not be bored anymore. And that's when you start to create, to imagine, to think of ideas and develop those skills. So being bored for a child is good. Let them be bored. As I said, take boxes and create that area. It will be very interesting. And put the materials available. So create, I don't know, colors or glue or anything, and teach them how to use it first in a good way, safe and clean, and how to put it away. Very important. Every time they work on something, put it away, so they can be independent in that. Also, all the things that you're doing at home, like cleaning, tidying, anything that you have to do at work, please make sure that you have your child with you as your apprentice. Cleaning the house, their rooms, they have to clean their rooms. Tidying up the kitchen, they have to help you tidying up the kitchen. Take them, it's good. You're teaching them how to be strong and independent. So that's very good. So to recap, understanding the child is important, needs and interests, preparing an engaging environment, or a learning corner or area in the house can really help them to develop all those skills we talked about and support those needs and interests. You might need to create a routine or using the work cycle, depending if you're home educating or not. And balancing teaching, observation, and independence. That will help a lot. So what I would like to do is set a new goal. So if you can think of one of the things that we just discussed today and think of one specific goal. So for instance, in this case, I think, oh, actually, I want to understand more my child first. So you can use the form I put online, fill it in, and think on that aspect and work on that goal. Or you want to set as a goal, I'm going to start to create a new routine. That's going to be my goal. Or I'm going to think of how to create the work cycle with the planning. So think of one of these goals and see how you can work on it. And that will be your way to start to use discipline in your life and in your child's life, and see what happens after you have been doing it for a month and a half, 2 months. You can as well think of one specific goal for yourself if you want. One thing you want to work on yourself. Oh, I need to exercise. Okay, I'm going to set one goal. What do I need to set my goal? Be specific, write it down. I'm going to do it on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, the 3 first days of the week, and I'm going to do it at 7 o'clock in the morning. Be very specific, because then it will help you not to procrastinate and find excuses. Like when you have to go to work, you have to go to work. So do the same. And the same, do it with any of these goals that you set. I'm happy for you to tell me later. I mean, we can discuss some of the goals now, but if you are watching the recording, let me know. I'm happy, no problem at all. And before I finish the recording, to go to the questions and the goals to set, I'm doing an offer today where I'm offering our 1 hour session with a 25% discount. So instead of £60, it's 45%, 45 pounds. And in that hour, I can support you in any of the 4 areas of the magical bodies, from physical, emotional, mental, in education, in how to set up the environment at home, anything, and how to understand your child better and yourself, and how to work better as well as individuals. That as well, I use other tools for that. So, and it can be very bespoke to you and your family. So, as I said, because I run other courses as well and do these one-to-ones, just look at my website. But this offer is valid until this Sunday, the 24th of November at midnight. And you just need to go into the ad hoc, 1 hour ad hoc session on the website. And when you book, just at the checkout, you just need to put the code ABC22 and you will have the 25% discount. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm gonna go now with, I'm gonna stop the recording and start to talk a bit more about the goals, and if you have any questions about everything I discussed so far. Thank you very much for those who are watching, and have a good evening.